Business on the floor with Trinette Ledford. Trinette.
Thank you, Mary Alice. I am here with Quentin Dastuque, a delegate from Louisiana. Now, his button says Reagan-Cajun, and he may look like a staunch Reagan man, but 1 month ago, he was a Hart delegate at the Democratic Convention in San Francisco. Tell me, Mr. Dastuque, what happened to bring you from Gary Hart to Ronald Reagan?
Well, for the last 5 years, I've been a member of the Louisiana legislature, and I've always been a fiscal conservative. What I've been trying to do is get the Democrats to give some sort of a voice to the fiscal conservatives in the Democratic Party. My working for the Gary Hart candidacy was an effort to bring some of the Democrats closer to the middle, so we have some more moderation in the Democratic Party. We went to San Francisco with that in mind, that effort to be tried, and we failed miserably because they would not. They were so interested in falling over themselves backwards to try and please the little vocal minority groups that made so much noise, and they completely left out the hard people in middle-class America. So I came back, switched to Republican, and I'm here.
So how do you feel now that you're behind a man who's considered one of the most conservative presidents?
Well, I've always been very conservative, and I've always supported people like Ronald Reagan. I supported him when he ran in 1980. I'm very happy to be here and be supporting Reagan. The only reason I was with Hart's way too liberal for me, but the only reason was to try and get some sort of moderation in the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Quentin Dastuque. Now back to the booth. Mary Alice.
Just another summer.
Thank you, Trinette. And on the podium, Governor George Deukmejian of California is placing the name of Vice President George Bush in nomination before this assembly.
If anyone believes that it is unfair to blame Walter Mondale for the failures of the Carter administration, listen to the words of Mr. Carter. There wasn't a single decision I made during 4 years at the White House that Fritz Mondale wasn't involved in. With Mr. Carter's right-hand man heading their ticket in 1984, the Democrats are telling us that while things may look good now, we should be afraid of the future. Theirs is a message of fear. Fear that the prosperity that they couldn't produce will end if we re-elect the team that produced it, Ronald Reagan and George Bush. Fear that the peace that they couldn't secure will be shattered if we re-elect the peacemakers who secured it, Ronald Reagan and George Bush. Our party rejects this message of fear. We're not scared. We're confident. Ours is not a message of malaise, but ours is a message of hope and opportunity. The Democrats made many promises to the American family.
We will continually hear throughout this convention the code words, fear, malaise, all part of the themes that the Republicans will use as their ammunition against the Democratic Party and the Mondale-Ferraro ticket. And we'll continue with the festivities here in Dallas after these messages.
And rising unemployment.
Well, they're listening to California Governor George Deukmejian, who is nominating Vice President George Bush. And some curiosities on this floor. We've been telling you about them this week. There is an uncommitted delegate from Illinois. We've uncovered a second one, Mr. Paul Zimmerman, who's a nuclear freeze advocate. And there is a third person on the floor. We heard from correspondent Trinette Ledford, who was talking to this man, who said he was a delegate. And we wondered how that could be if he was a delegate at the Democrats convention just under a month ago out in San Francisco. And Trinette is going to explain all this to us.
Thank you, Bernie. I just went up to him after the interview and said, how is it that you could become a delegate so soon without running as a delegate? And he smiled and said, well, I'm really not a delegate. I'm here as an honored guest. So that's the story. He is not a delegate. He said that they tried to get him to be one, but that it was too late. So he's just here as a guest.
And to add to that curiosity, Trinette, you recall earlier that we heard from the podium Reverend E.V. Hill from Los Angeles, who said that he was a Jackson supporter, and he is now a Reagan backer. and he backed President Reagan in 1980. So as this week goes on, we'll come up with all kinds of curiosity. Can you? Sure.
Yeah, Trinidad, can I ask you a question? How you happen to meet this gentleman who talked about having been at the Democratic Convention and now being for Reagan? How he came to your attention?
We were all given a list of delegates and people to watch here at the convention, and he happened to be in my state, and it was highlighted that he had been a Hart supporter in San Francisco. So that's how we knew about him, and then we just went to the delegation to find him.
And did the Republican National Committee help you to get that name?
Dan, I believe that they did, yes. I didn't, I'm just sure that they helped us get all the information as far as who the delegates were.
Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of preparation going on down on the floor prior to the roll call and the actual nomination. We're going to go down there and talk with Tom Intier. Tom?
Murray Ellis, I'm in the Ohio delegation with the former governor of Ohio, James Rhodes. Governor Rhodes, right now, the State House is in the hands of the Democrats in Ohio. How is President Reagan going to do in your state?
I think President Reagan has a good opportunity here in Ohio. If these people can stop talking about 88 and 86, and we probably have 25 candidates for president in 1988. What they do, they destroy the enthusiasm for President Reagan, and also they dry up a great deal of money that's going to come in to help the Republican Party. And they continue it, and I just think that Reagan can carry Ohio.
How can you say that they're destroying the enthusiasm when you look around and the signs and all of the orchestrated events here tonight that lasted for the last half hour?
We have just about 14 less than 2,500 delegates and alternates here, and you have 240 million people in America. And when they see all of these signs going up, they say, well, what is this? Should we prepare for 1988, or should we stay with 1984? It works this way, and all we do is create a great deal of apathy, and that hurts Ronald Reagan in the state of Ohio and the other states.
Okay. Governor Rhodes, thank you very much. Let's go back up to the booth now.
Thank you very much, Tom. You know, what Governor Rhodes just said was very refreshing to hear. Here's a man who's not caught up in all the hoopla down there, but he's concerned with certain persons whom you know and we know who've been going around this hall and city looking ahead to 88, and he's saying, stop this nonsense. We've got to deal with this year first.
And if there's an old pro in this hall, it's Governor Big Jim Rhodes of Ohio, who's been governor off and on now for about 15 years. And the talk is now that he may be staging a comeback for his 5th term.
James Allen Miklashevsky is down on the floor, John.